What is going on, people? Good morning, good morning. How are we doing? Hope everyone's well. Just give people a few minutes to trickle in. What's up, Angelo? How are you, my man? Can you let me know if the sound and the picture is all right? Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. All right, let's crack on then. So we're going to do a top-down today. BTC, ETH, Sol, then get into curated weekly strength watch list to hump some new setups. We take a look at the deltas. We'll be looking at, we could even get into dominance, ETH BTC, totals, and some of the more arbitrary charts. So, top down BTC. Let's start on the monthly, go all the way down to the hourly. So, monthly picture. We are still technically in the realms of a potential, and please take heed of the precise words that I'm using here. Potential, right? Not confirmed. RSI divergence. Okay, the AO is now off the cards. So what I mean by that is that we have a lower high still potentially in play here. Okay, as price makes a higher high. That being said, if the monthly candle, this current monthly candle, closes anywhere around this sort of point, then the awesome oscillator has now invalidated itself. Okay, so we would no longer have any double divergence across the monthly if it were to lock in any form. Okay, so we've been talking about this potential monthly structure for months now. Again, I'm not calling doom and gloom. I'm not saying this div will lock in. I'm not saying we're going to Hades from here. That's not what I'm saying. I'm observing the market pragmatically and reacting to the things that I'm seeing. That's all. I'm not in any short positions. I don't intend to be. I'm simply observing and analyzing the market as we go through. Okay. But if the monthly closes around here, then for the first time in this area, we would have basically discredited and discounted the awesome oscillator. It would no longer be valid simply because we have, as you can see here, now printed a bar on the AO histogram higher than over here. So that divergent structure against price would no longer be in effect. Okay, so good sign for the bulls. Weekly. Okay, sorry, it's a little bit messy here, all of these zones. But as you can see, we have a nice weekly intra-demand zone here on price. And basically, this is a lovely buffer in this area. Okay, a lovely buffer. So if we just remove these here, 4 and 12, this is a really nice buffer to have in this area, okay? Because even if price decides to correct from this area here, then we have this sort of zone that we could potentially bounce in and move up from, okay? So as we see ascents in price, as we see price climbing on any market, what we want to see is these pockets of demand being printed, intra-demand and origin demand. You can see we have a patch of origin demand here. As we climb. So basically what that means is the move is efficient and not inefficient, okay? If it does something like this, where it just goes straight up, all green candles, that's an inefficient move, okay? We want price to go slowly, steadily, and realize that it's a marathon, not a sprint sort of thing. And what we have here in terms of the weekly intra-demand and weekly origin demand is exactly that. Okay? So very, very healthy in terms of price and liquidity dynamics for BTC. Free day. is currently diverging. Okay, so the 3-day is currently diverging across both the RSI and the awesome oscillator here. So we do have that double divergence confirmation, unfortunately. Okay, but as you can see, we're pretty close to the weekly demand anyway here, which will be a lovely buffer. As you know, the more higher time frame, the more powerful, the more credence we can lend to that sort of theory of price action. And having this sort of weekly buffer here is a really, really great thing for BTC, in harmony as well with this sort of SR in here. Very, very nice indeed. Okay, daily. A much more bullish picture. Okay, so we've got a really nice tap back down to the 50 level here on BTC. You can see its reaction with the midpoint here. It's just starting to curl up here, and it's doing so into the 12-hour demand that we just removed off the higher time frame charts to make things a bit clearer. You can see in here, we've got a nice cluster of price bracketing backwards and forwards in here, creating that pocket of intra demand. Okay, so impulse cluster, impulse. So a nice pocket of 12-hour intra demand here, which price is currently inside, just tapping down into, reacting to, seeing if it holds as a bounce point or not. And we're still sort of tussling again, as with the daily, with the midpoint on the 12-hour here as well. Okay. So the 4-hour is probably the least appealing alongside the 3-day of the time frames in terms of analysis for BTC. As we scope down, we can see in a bit more detail what's happened to price. Okay, so we came up, spiked up, put in this sort of janky but still semi-valid divergence on the awesome oscillator. Did so aggressively with speed. As you can see, we put in a bit of positive delta here as we did so, and you can see the effect and play out as we close back in, come down into that 12-hour pocket of intra demand here. And the reason the 4-hour isn't as pleasant alongside the 3-day is because we are hovering underneath the 50 level here. So what we really want to see on the 4-hour is a reclaim of that 50 level, especially if it's to bounce in this 12-hour demand zone. That would be a really nice sort of confirmation of upward trajectory. If we reclaim the 4-hour 50 level here, would be a very strong sign for the bulls in this area. Hourly, not much to comment on, apart from the fact that on the 2-hour and the hourly here, the awesome oscillator is fairly nice in that we've got a diverging momentum against price, as you can see here, right? So price making lower lows, the awesome oscillator clearly making very severe higher lows in this area here, again into that area of 12-hour demand. So we are at a sticking point here on price. I expect it to either bounce here, or if not, probably take out this low, come down, maybe into the weekly demand there. But we have to take it step by step at the moment and see how price reacts to this 12-hour intra demand zone. Okay. Delta wise, not too much of note, right? Because we had a bit of positive delta here that caused price eventually, after sort of stacking it up cumulatively, to drop. And then as we did so, putting in some negative delta here and some liquidations as well, which is a nice bit of confluence here. We do have a bit of a delta cluster. Anyone who's followed my content for some time know that I prefer clusters of delta over single spikes. And you can kind of see that reaction as you backtest delta, that the clusters have really nice playouts. Essentially what that means is there is an entity, organization, or participant in the markets that's stepping in and consistently soaking up any markets that come into the order book, right? So all of the market orders that take place. Let's look at this one, for instance, okay? So you've got market selling that takes place, okay? In this area here, we start to see absorption by way of market sells interacting with limit bids, okay? That then goes down further, and you can see again here on the histogram with these orange bars here, more market selling occurs into more limit bids, okay? So again, it's basically someone walking down their bids, right? Walking down their bids consistently to gradually soak up all of that market selling, gradually soak up all of that supply in the area, and then push it up and then reverse it, okay? Whether for a sustained move or not. These DCs, Delta clusters, almost always have, I mean, I don't think I've ever really found a solid Delta cluster that hasn't had at least a short-term reversal impact on price. So huge alpha here, okay? If you are a user of Delta, please take note of this. The reason I bring it up is because I've been lured into this Delta cluster here as a very bullish notion, but then I also have to cross-compare it and realize that it is actually quite puny compared to regular clusters that we have on BTC and ETH. Okay, so what's up, Motion Monster? Nice to see you. Okay, so ETH from here, we will do actually, you know what? I want to start on the 3-month on ETH. A time frame I rarely use, but yeah, I think it's a good place to start for this market. Reason being, I'm sure you can all spot it. Exact reset on the 3-month. Okay, so exact reset on the 3-month for ETH as we tap down into this market structure defense area here. Okay, so tap down into this MSDZ and exact reset on the 3-month, and no surprises, everyone knows what's happened with ETH recently. Absolute scorcher. Looking at the monthly here, what a beautiful chart. Okay, so the monthly dipped down temporarily through the 50 level underneath it, which was a potential cause for concern considering how it held and respected it so nicely over the last few years. But we've now deviated it, reclaimed, clean reclaim, pushing up from that midpoint on the RSI on the monthly, and in incredibly strong stead here on ETH, scratching at price discovery. And when I say scratching at price discovery, that's actually a very good thing. Okay, I'm happy that we're not actually in price discovery at the moment. Contrary to what you may think, it's not because I'm a bear. I'm very much an ETH bull, but it's like in this area here. I put out a tweet saying how happy I was that we were correcting underneath this SR level here. Okay, and the reason being, it's the same notion that I was echoing on BTC earlier on, in that we want the ascents, we want the climbs in price in bullish markets for continuation to be efficient, not inefficient. Okay, and for that efficiency to take place, we do need price to stop, stall, and take breaths. I've got a video on my YouTube and the ultimate trading course. It's called Speed, the trader's secret weapon. And in that video, I talk about energy points in price, okay? Saying, price doesn't want to exhaust all of its, let's say it starts with 5 energy points here. We don't want price to exhaust 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and come to the most important level where it needs the most strength with 0 energy points. We want price to stop, take breaks, okay, and get to that breakout level with enough energy to break through, okay? Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to have a sharp, fast move, taking out highs, and that's going to look much more plausible for a short setup than anything else, okay? In the same vein, I'm very happy that we haven't scorched into the 4.8s and plus on ETH, okay? And we basically stopped and stalled here, just underneath all-time highs. Again, what I want to see is that consolidation, okay? That's exactly what we want to see on ETH, okay? Consolidation, some pause, some respite, build up enough energy to push us higher, push ETH into price discovery sustainably, okay? That's the most important thing, that does so sustainably. So we can then keep running, keep pushing, go higher, bring all of our spot bags higher with it, give us some extremely ripe bullish trading conditions across the altcoins, and give everyone, you know, all the conditions and market environments that we've been all waiting for so long, okay? Otherwise, if we do just push up here fast and with speed, then it's much more likely to be a sweep or deviation of the highs, which would really be very nasty, okay? So again, good signs on ETH, good to see it pausing, good to see it taking a breather. Would like to see some consolidation in this area. 3-day, the divergence across the RSI has just been invalidated, but it's, for me, this is still sort of valid in my books, okay? People that know the way that I use RSI divergences know that I'm happy to bend the rules somewhat. I'm not too strict with them. That being said, the AO is now off the cards, okay? So we no longer have that 3-day double divergence across the RSI on the Awesome Oscillator. What we do have of note on the 3-day time frame, however, is this cluster, okay? Very, very clean cluster of 3-day intra-demand on Ethereum. And again, going back to what I said about BTC in terms of the weekly intra-demand, that SR level, etc., etc., it's the same thing here, okay? We have really nice buffers, okay? So we're in very good stead. ETH climbing in an incredibly efficient manner. I had my animator basically animate what an efficient move up looks like, and it was basically exactly 1-to-1 what this looks like. And I did that, you know, 9 months ago when I first started the channel. Move up, consolidate, intra-demand, move up, consolidate, intra-demand, move up, consolidate, intra-demand, etc. You know, this is beautiful, okay? Price is going pretty much as fast as it can go whilst maintaining that efficiency, okay? Which is critical, okay? You should always be thinking in terms of efficiency, not just speed, not just price changes by percentage, etc. You want these moves to be sustainable, okay? And in this way, we have now taken this SR level here on the 3-day and daily, and we have that as firstly a nice support level now, right? Resistance flip to support. We have this 3-day pocket of intra-demand if price were to correct that deeply. And this pocket in here, I believe, is an 8-hour. Okay, so if we go down to, we can just cover the daily at 12 quickly. So both nice signs on the RSI. Went into overextensions, now cooling off, exactly what we want to see, okay? Again, going back to how this is price discovery here. Past this point, we do want the RSI to cool off. We want those oscillators to cool off, come down to the midpoint as much as possible. As you can see on the 10-hour here, this sort of thing we want to happen on the 12-hour and daily, okay? Going down to the 8, we can see what this zone is here. It's another pocket of intra-demand, this time on the 8-hour, okay? So impulse, cluster, impulse. We've been talking about demand a lot in this live stream so far. If you're not familiar with what supply and demand is, or how to chart it, or how pivotal it is in the markets, please check my video on supply and demand. It is, for me, indispensable. It is the most important price action concept in terms of left side price action, i.e. the zones and levels that you use as areas to do business in. More so than support resistance. If I had to keep one for the rest of my life, it would be supply and demand over support and resistance. That is how pivotal it is in my trading anyway. I'd love to impart all of that knowledge with you guys as well. Also in our Discord, we use it frequently, day to day. It's super important, and I've always spoke about how I think it's underemphasized in the trading education space, just because the reactions are, in my opinion and my experience, much more fruitful than support and resistance. Okay, I only really use support and resistance for breakouts and breakout trades. Down to the 4. Okay, again, similar to BTC, not the prettiest of pictures. We can see that we've lost the mid here, curling, retesting that mid as resistance on the underside. But again, we're hovering above this very, very clean pocket of 8-hour intra-demand here. I'm going to move over to the 2, and you can see that on the AO, we're starting to see those signs of diverging momentum. Okay, so here, could see something like so. Right, move down into 8-hour intra-demand on ETH, put in a nice divergence on the awesome oscillator. A bit of delta would be nice as well, and push up. So look at the delta on ETH. We can sort of analyze it from the beginning of, where should we go from? We can take a look at it from this sort of area here, right? So where the real push in ETH has taken place. Now we're looking at the hourly deltas, okay? So we're very, very zoomed in here, but just want you to look at the dynamics of the delta here, okay? And study this, because yes, we use delta mainly to sort of notice absorption in the markets, okay? But it's incredibly important not to use that blindly. Delta is a heavily nuanced tool, and you need to have some pretty specific and high-level insights when using delta. Okay, I call them delta dynamics. What this means is, when delta is being produced, what effect is it having on price? Okay, so in this area here, for instance, we start to move up for the first time, and we produce some very significant clusters of positive delta. What that means is that there are market buys occurring into limit asks, okay? And you can see this is the most significant cluster so far for the last few months, probably more. Now, it having no effect on price, okay, is the first clue as to this happening, okay? Because if there's loads of market buying occurring into limit orders, limit asks, that would normally typically signify that the stronger hand is attempting to push price downwards, okay? But price says, fuck you to that, right? Doesn't care about this positive delta, marches onwards, produces more here, doesn't care, marches onwards, again, more here. We start to see some negative delta taking place, and this is where pro-trend delta really starts having effects, okay? So when we start to see any sort of pro-trend delta take place, i.e. here or here, it pushes price a lot easier than the positive delta, which has to put in a lot more work, okay? So just a note on delta dynamics, and how to sort of interpret it as you go forward. We can take a look at this point at Solana. Okay, very interesting market at the moment, so very interesting indeed. We'll just sort of blitz through the top down. Okay, so spoke about this as the months gone on. At this point in the chart, I said it was easily one of the most interesting markets around, right? Higher time frame SFP plus exact monthly reset and curling up, okay? So those that are familiar with the way I use resets on the RSI, I'm happy for price to get overextended and then cool off right before moving up to the 55 to 45 region, okay? So I use it sort of like this, okay? Where's 55? Yeah, to 45, okay? So if price dips into this, it's technically a reset by my books, okay? Just by my books. But if we get those exact resets where price bounces exactly on, and you can keep zooming, right? You keep zooming, getting more and more granular with this. It is exactly to the 50 level here. These aren't coincidences, guys, and they should be heavily listened to, okay? As you can see, SFP, monthly reset, price pushing away, a very, very strong signal. Okay, very, very strong signal. In trending markets, high time frame resets are exactly what you want to see to join the trend. Higher time frame exact resets, that's when you should start thinking about, you know, going big on spot positions for the long haul, etc., etc. Okay. So weekly, very clean on Sol. Okay, again, the main thing I'm looking at is the RSI mid. Okay, seeing that interaction, we can see a clean reclaim here on the weekly. 3-day exact tap down to, and you can, you know, you're starting to see the way that I look at the RSI, the mid level, etc. Okay, and how pivotal it is in my analysis. And just the playouts. Okay, you know what I'm talking about here, not coincidental stuff, right? I haven't even looked at Sol yet. The stream isn't planned. Okay, I'm just running through the markets as I see them, and yeah, you can see those exact reactions. Okay, not coincidence by any means. Daily hovering above in good stead. Okay, very good stead. So price in these areas tends to push away. Okay, you're hovering at that sort of 55 level, tons of steam in the tank to move higher. Also really nice 12-hour coming down to that 50 level, resetting into questionable demand here. All right, questionable demand in that I would like to see the impulse in a bit stronger, a bit more forceful. It would give this demand zone better structure, better validity, and more credence to use it as a zone to work within. That being said, it's still something to note. But the thing which is most noteworthy is the delta. Okay, the delta at the moment is very, very noteworthy indeed. Okay, so I only use Solana delta, aggregated delta on the 4-hour, and on the 4-hour, you can see that within its look back history over the years, potentially forever, we have the biggest spike here. Okay, so we're coming down here, minus 402. There's nothing here which rivals this. Okay, so a huge spike of negative delta as price moves down. Now you may be saying, okay, well, fine, that happened, but we didn't go to $1,000 per Solana straight from there. Okay, fine. Delta doesn't need to react at that exact point. Okay, we take delta into account in terms of localized delta. Okay, so as long as there's delta in the nearby vicinity that's taking place, we can still see a very, very strong push, and that delta is still valid within that thought process for that push. Okay, and here you can see just a completely outsized candle of negative delta. Couple that with how bullish ETH is at the moment. You know, BTC's undeniable strength, both ETH and BTC with their buffers in place in terms of consistent price action concepts and liquidity, demand, etc. It's a good spot for Solana, a very good spot indeed. Okay, so we've covered the three main majors, BTC, ETH, and Sol. And I think now we can do a scan through some of the altcoins, hunt for some setups. If there's anything you guys want me to run through, please let me know. This is a nice opportunity in the stream to take a break for any Q&As or any chart requests, etc. as well. But this is my weekly strength watch list. Okay, so every Tuesday evening with my Discord group, I run through a larger list of all of the crypto markets, and then on the weeklies look at which are particularly strong. Okay, and the reason we do this is because we can focus on a refined, curated list of markets which are the strongest markets. Okay, I'm only looking to take longs in these market conditions, right? I'm looking to align with the trend as much as possible, and I want to align with the trend on the strongest markets. Okay, I'm not just looking to long anything because it has a decent setup. You know, if something is down here, let's say we're looking at the hourly on a certain market, and instead of hovering up here, we're down here with a nice divergence that's printing as we take out a low. Okay, I'm not interested, right? I'm not even looking at those markets. I'm looking for the markets that are pushing. I'm looking for the markets that have undeniable strength on the higher time frames and looking to align with those markets. And I guarantee you, if you adopt this approach, you will see your performance take, I'm going to guess, a huge jump, right? A huge jump in performance. It's an approach that I haven't seen any other traders take on, really. And again, I'm very surprised at that, because it makes you laser focused, right? It has you know where all the markets are. You know, I'm checking this 3 times a day, first thing in the morning, midday, and 5 p.m. Right, so an alarm goes off on my desktop all of those times, right, just to do a simple scan through. I scan from the 12-hour normally down to the 1 hour. And yeah, you're basically just focusing on the strongest markets. If you're looking for longs, that's the way to go, right? It's a strategy that I'll be implementing in the bear market as well. Weekly weakness, only looking to short those within a curated list of the weakest markets on the higher time frame. So let's take a look at, we can just scroll through some of the weeklies here. So Aave, very, very strong. Okay, on the weekly, great looking chart. Okay, really, really beautiful here. Holding above the midpoint on the RSI. BNB undeniably strong, right? One of, if not the strongest markets at the moment. Okay, so this was the main area of contention. We've now overcome that, retested it. Okay, we're in good stead on the RSI, and we're basically in price discovery here for BNB, looking very, very solid indeed. Deep coiling, curling. Okay, but the higher time frame looks ready to bust, to be completely honest. Right, the whole chart is essentially this symmetrical triangle, the entire thing, however you want to draw it, and the mid RSI interactions on the weekly are stunning here. Okay, so very, very attractive indeed. Dog not looking quite as nice as it used to. Okay, so not looking to focus on this market particularly. So we'd like to see a reclaim of the mid-level weekly here. We'd like to start seeing a push into this high and further. In fact, you know what? We can remove this from the watch list for now. It's lost its spot. Altcoin, again, looking good for now, right? So we've still got this double support level tapped to the exact 50 level here, which is great. We'd like to see price either push up from here or take out these stacked lows underneath us before doing so, either or. Hype, glorious market, 90% of my spot holdings still from the 19s. Right, so if we run back through my live streams, was loading up spot, heavily so in the 19s region. And yeah, trading this heavily in this area, been easily the most fruitful market for me this year across both the trading and the spot side. Still looking great. Okay, still looking very good. You know what, actually, let's run through the markets individually. Okay, might be easier that way. So daily on Aave, down to the 50 level, nice. We can just recap these quickly. Essentially what I'm looking for on Aave is, I believe it would be 2 hour. Okay, so 2 hours, the cleanest looking picture, I believe. Right, so we take out this low here, pro trend sweep of, in fact, stacked lows. Didn't notice this low here. So this notion of sweeping stacked lows and stacked highs, basically what it means is the sweep or SFP is more likely to play out if you're taking out a cluster of tightly packed, you know, very tightly spaced together lows or highs. Okay, so we've got 2 very tightly spaced together lows here, which make this basically twice as appetizing for a long setup or an area to do business in on the long side if we get that SFP. We've got a a nice divergence across the 2-hour and the awesome oscillator, okay, with the AO peaking up nicely here as price still bleeds down. Would really like to see that last level taken out here for a potential long in this area. RSI not quite as well structured as it could be technically. Would prefer to see these peaks and overextension. Regardless, as I often talk about, basically what we have to do is take our confluence, take our system, take our criteria, and bend that ever so slightly in relation with the trend, right? So what I'm trying to say is that because Aave is such a strong market, we can start looking at things like this and going, okay, fine, the peaks aren't overextended, which is technically what we want to see for a divergence, but I'm happy to bend that specific rule on the RSI because of how strong the trend is, and essentially that I think it's strong enough to bend those rules on. Now, you're not bending every rule in the divergence book, right? This is still only come up to the 41s. It hasn't come up to the 45s. If it had, then it's a reset. That's another no-no. Okay, so you don't want to be crossing out all of your lists or in the sort of divergence criteria. If you want to know what they are, I've got 7 golden rules. I've just done a recent RSI masterclass video. Please check that out. But yeah, happy to sort of bend the rules based on how strong the market is in this area here. Okay, so BNB 3-day divergence in this area. Okay, so undeniable divergence here on BNB. That being said, it could even lock in and push us lower, or just keep ripping. Okay, because in heavily trending markets, this is a counter trend divergence. Please bear that in mind, as we've just broken up past basically higher time frame SR here and retested it. So again, I'm not looking to short anything, still looking for longs, and that's my main focus. So yeah, you can see we're kind of into this cluster here, 12-hour, right? Could be a potential bounce area for BNB in this area here. Don't think there's very much confluence in terms of getting in on a trade, unfortunately. And when we do have, let's say, one in this watch list printing a 3-day divergence, maybe a few more, but not many, it's probably not going to be the market I focus on in terms of the long side, as I'm playing into a higher time frame counter trend divergence. Would rather be patient, look for opportunities in other markets. Okay. Daily on deep, this is the one we're looking at with that symmetrical higher time frame triangle playing out and the really nice RSI positioning here. So, a play could be something like this, I suppose. A daily diagonal breakout level. Essentially what we want here is really price to come, give it one more tap, and then go from there. Okay, that'd be the more technically sound entry. 4-hour, hovering around mid, kind of reclaiming it here, not bad, but largely inactionable on deep. So Farcoin, again, like I said, really want us to take out these lows. Hopefully this reaction with the midpoint here to the underside on Farc gives us that opportunity. Still higher time frame bullish on Farcoin for sure. Just need a reason to get in, basically. And if we push down and take out these lows, ideally all of them, something like this, be really nice. Then we can start looking at divergences, lower time frame speed, etc., etc. So if we go down to the slightly lower time frames here, again, largely inactionable. Okay, looking for these levels to be taken. This, so I'm really looking for that final low, the final absolute low okay, to be taken to move in. And you can see anything from the daily here, right here, to the hourly, those reactions to the mid, right, as resistance, working nicely in favor of potentially pushing us down to those lows. Okay, so it's a 2 hour demand zone here that hype tapped into, still strong on the RSI, but again, largely inactionable. The only thing that I could see as a potential play would be this as a breakout level, okay? But as anyone that's an avid follower of mine and the way that I use breakout trades, I want to see price make 3 taps first, okay? For consolidating and pushing up at least this, okay? This is technically only 2 taps, okay? So that's what I'd be looking for on hype. Happy to leave this level on here, but I'm not going to start taking a breakout trade if we push up here. This is just a single tap here and then consolidation. Kaito. Again, I think we can remove this one. May add it back in later. Pendle, very strong indeed. Okay. So weekly looking good stead on the RSI, 3-day exact tap and push. We had a really nice jump up here recently. Lower time frames, yeah, so nothing particularly actionable. I had this level here marked out. We've taken it out. We could see another push in here, but there's just not quite enough confluence for me to justify trying to step into a long here. There's just not enough really here to work with, despite the fact it will probably push higher after this level of consolidation and look obvious in hindsight. That being said, I have to stick to my system and yeah, focus on things that still have a bit more confluence. Okay, I'm not dropping my stringency so much just because of irrational gut feel. Still want to sort of keep my guard up a little bit in these areas. And look, I've been saying this probably for a year now, but if we do migrate into much more bullish, full-blown, alt mania, you'll start to see me using shameless levels of confluence. Okay, it will be shameless, right? I'll literally be opening markets, taking a simple diagonal break on a chart. That's it, right? That's literally it. Going down to the 15-minute to do so, etc., etc. So Sol, we've covered. Sui, a lovely market as well, looking great on the higher time frames. Okay, super bullish here. What a market, right? What a market, what a structure. Very nice indeed. Weekly above mid, right? 3-day above mid, right? Daily above mid, using that as support at the moment, as you can see. Very nice indeed. 12-hour, not too bad. 4, same picture as BTC, ETH, and most of the 4s on the bullish markets, right? Just retesting the underside as resistance, which is fine, because normally on all of these markets that we've seen that, we got down to the 2, and we can see the AO curling up here. So even if price does push down, take out these stacked lows here, then we still have nice structure across the 2-hour AO. Okay, so as you can see, alert set here on Sui, alert set down here as well if we do get a much deeper correction. But even still, I may look to position depending on the price action dynamics. If we take out these lows again, because they're stacked lows, we have 2 lows tightly packed together here. TRX, absolute monster. If you go back to my stream a few months ago, I spoke about this exact tap on the weekly, and how this was basically the play, right? The play. Called a select few friends and family in the space and out of the space and urged them to go heavy TRX, simply because, again, these exact resets on strong markets in favor of the trend, they should not be trifled with. Okay, very, very bullish, and you can see the play out here. 12-hour, everything just super bullish, super strong. Very awkward market to position into. Just, the only thing we had here was, I believe it was 8-hour, 10-hour, cleanest on the 12, really. Demand in here, the price tapped into and pushed away from. Apart from that, almost impossible to get on board with TRX. Okay, so got some alerts down here at the 33s. That's pretty much it. Okay, and only because we have 2 touch points here, it's still not quite the cleanest, because we could also reach down for lows within near vicinity. Not exactly what we want in terms of sweeps, okay, but we'd have to again start bending our rules a bit potentially if price were to correct this far and give us a viable setup. Virtual, not much to comment on really. 3-day lost the mid. Okay, daily lost the mid, retested the underside. 12-hour mucking around. 4-hour. You can see that I've got some alerts down here, but again, not even too tempted by these really. As you can see, we had a really nice clean isolated low here. Price took it out and then just basically just came down further. So virtual has been fairly unimpressive. I was hoping it was going to be a big pusher earlier on, but we're not quite there at the moment. XMR, another one, very disappointing. And we're now into this questionable weekly demand here, but yeah, we've come a long way from the highs, a long way from former glory. At one point, this looked like not even too long ago that it was going to lead all of the alts. Was easily the strongest market in the sector. Let's see what this divergence is saying. Yeah, so basically been hawking this divergence. It was a 2-hour, now it's turned into a 12-hour, etc. It's been morphing, but still pretty clean. I imagine if we're going to see a reversal and move up to the highs again on XMR, that it'll be off the back of this sort of double structured RSI divergence here, despite it not being present on the AO. Imagine if we go down to the 10, it will be, yeah, or the 8 even. You can start to see that it is there, okay, more so. But yeah, it really has to do something here, right? Otherwise, not looking good for XMR. XRP, again, it was in the same basket of school of thought as TRX in terms of the weekly reset. You see that push away here, very clean. It's a lovely market, right? Looks very comfortable in its own right, okay? But again, just slightly hard to position into, okay? So we should reactivate this alert down here. This is really what we want to see, okay? If price came down and took out this low on XRP and gave us some decent confluence, i.e. some good speed, a divergence, or both, it is going to be a very, very clean trade indeed. Probably one of the most prime setups in this watch list in terms of hunting a future play and one to size into, right? We get some nice confluence and yeah, divergences, speed, etc. You want to play into, simply because this is just such a nice isolated clean low. There's no other lows to reach for in this area here, right? It's just, there's nothing. It's just this is just an inefficiency of sorts. So this is the absolute final low on one of the strongest markets, right? Really, really strong market on the higher time frames. So yeah, keep your alerts here for sure. Syrup, again, this one's just sorting itself out. Okay, just figuring out what it wants to do, simmering. It could be something similar to B, where it was simmering for some time and then just pushed up. Let's go down to the 4. Yeah, again, nothing actionable here, right? Just alerts out the lows, see the reaction, go from there. Yeah, B, not much here, really. We were long B, okay, from, let's see if I've still got the position here. So I ran through this in the last stream in detail, I believe. Forgive me if I'm not right there. But yeah, I was long from this area here, was monitoring it very closely with the group. Pushed away, started taking some profit in this area here, off the back of this 2-hour divergence. Okay, so 2-hour div up here, not what we want to be seeing, and took most of the position off there and then closed the rest as we started closing back in here. Okay, in terms of hunting for a fresh position, it's just really these lows again, right? If these lows get tagged again, like XRP, very nice isolated lows, nothing else to stretch for, that's what we'd be looking for. SPX, just lackluster, weak. Yeah, pretty spiteful about this market personally, because I took the breakout trade here, documented the loss in the last live stream. Very much, I mean, in this area here, it looked like it was just pushing, right? One higher time frame breakout level, consolidation prior to the break, retest, everything, all the hallmarks, very textbook, and then correction. Okay, so it just shows the market as a whole, the altcoin market isn't quite there yet, not too frothy. Okay, and that's why we have to keep our stringency high, because when we do go full-blown mania, if we get there, then those sort of charts they'll start going off the screen. Kaya, really nothing. I don't even have to go down into the lower time frames here. There's really nothing to chart here. Pengu, again, very, very strong market. The only thing that's particularly eye-drawing here is this 2-hour divergence. You can see that I've already marked on as we've taken out this low here. Now, these plays are interesting plays and more appetizing than most, because basically what you're doing is you're playing the low side into a higher time, into a trend side upside trigger here, in that it's a diagonal break, right? So when you take your stabs at plays like this, 2-hour divergence, taking out a low, yes, there are other lows that it could stretch for. That is a con to trade. If you a con to the trade, if you do and you are someone that marks out your cons in your journal, then you should always be noting things like this, right? So the XRP, absolutely independent, isolated low, perfect. Something like this, lots more lows to the left side that it could reach for. But it's always more appetizing to take these sort of plays because you have something to the upside to work with. Okay, so you have 3 touch points here, 1, 2, 3. I'll treat these collectively. So if we do get a move up, right, and consolidate in this region here, and then push up, then you basically caught the early train to a breakout, and that hopefully then ushers in a whole new tranche of breakout traders that push this higher, and you basically secured an early seat. Bonk. Again, didn't like this reaction at the highs here. Was hoping it was going to be a stronger market. It's inches away from being removed from this watch list, to be honest. And yeah, it's basically bounce here into this 12-hour demand zone, or lose it, and yeah, we remove it basically. XLM, super strong market alongside XRP. Those that have been in the space long enough know that, and whatever XRP does, XLM mirrors. Okay, so very strong. Yeah, essentially again exactly the same as XRP, of course, in that they're mirrored. We're looking for this low, really a nuke down for entry. There's nothing really in the upside we can use. I'm not going to start drawing invisible imaginary lines on here. There's nothing really of note that we can sort of work with, nothing in the way of a breakout level in terms of resistance as well, unfortunately. So unless we start forming some new price action in here, Same with XRP. Maybe interactions with this level here, then it's very difficult to onboard this market as well. Okay. ZBCN. So very strong on the higher time frames. Come down to the daily mid. Nice pocket of demand in here. But again, it's similar to Pendle, taking out this low, but again, just very little in the way of confluence. Okay, yes, the awesome oscillator is diverging here, but the RSI is retesting mid. So counter trade signals here rather. And when you have a mixed bag of signals, skip that, move on to the next. Same with IP, exactly the same situation. XDC would have really liked this low to be taken yesterday, as you can see. Just missed it. Okay, just missed it. So again, no trigger. Still have an alert down there that's to be taken out. This is a very strong market. Okay, on the higher time frames, looking great, looking primed, and just need that reasoning to get in. So need this low to be taken. Otherwise, we're looking at, again, a potential trend line to the upside here. But yeah, just again, looking for a valid reason to get in where we can start marking out some sensible trade parameters, okay, and not just shooting from the hip and going with our gut. BCH, okay, very, very strong on the weekly, right? BCH has kind of come out of nowhere here and looking nice. So 4 hours. Again, it's one of those ones where it's just this infinite bid, right? Similar to TRX. Very, very awkward to position into. I'm going to keep this here, but I'm not looking to trade this really, just simply because I can tell already there won't be a valid setup here for some time. MNT, again, another one that's come out of nowhere. Very nice indeed. So what do we have marked on here? 4 hour demand zone down here. But again, this is just one of those markets. Once it gets going, it doesn't really give much in the way of entries. Okay, so we have to keep analyzing this. I'll be scanning this every day on the hourly 30-minute. You can see here exact reset to the mid here, but into very little in the way of left side confluence. So we just have to wait until we get that nice setup. Something like this would work. Okay, for instance, get a nice correction in the market, stack lows, take it out into 4 hour demand, diverge as we do so perhaps, or do so with speed, gives us a nice setup. Zora, again, another very, very strong market. Not too much price data, but we are looking for, yeah, I mean, again, it's this is not giving very much. Okay, so not giving very much. If you're one of those traders, then we do have a wedge in here. All right, it's not something that I sort of use in my playbook and system. Okay, it's not my forte, not my strength. But it's something to note if that's within your playbook. Okay, so been rambling for an hour there. I'm just going to check the questions and comments. We'd love a session on how you split your spots and your trading portfolios. Well, the trading portfolio isn't a portfolio per se. Spot is a portfolio. In terms of trading, it's completely separate to spot. Right? Spot is very much tuck away in cold storage and hold for months longer. And trading is just entirely separate. Okay, so you load up your account, your exchange account with as little capital as possible. I always keep as little as possible on the exchanges, just to sort of retain custody, self-custody of the assets. And as you start making profits, siphon them off to cold storage, etc., etc. It's a separate game, entirely separate principles and systems that are applied. Also, how do you structure your trading routine? I took a new full-time role in June, but I don't hindsight too much or regret too much, but in the future, look to leave and have more of a process. Fair enough. I mean, basically my routine, as I said, is super simple. I do a scan first thing in the morning when I wake up. I have to do first thing I do of this watch list. So this has BTC and ETH inside it, right? So I do a 12-hour all the way down to, so I do 12, 4, and 1 hour. Midday, I do the same thing, but only 4 and 1, sometimes just 1. And the same thing at 5 p.m. And that way I stay nicely on top of the markets. Once a week with the group, I'll do a full scan of all of the markets and see if this list needs to be updated. That's pretty much it. Will you split your bids on FART across the lows? I don't bid. So waiting for reactions and stepping in for trades only if I see exactly what I want to see. Can you go through how and why you pick these during your weekly strength scan from top down? Do you do weekly down to hourly? I pick these just all based on the weeklies, right? That's it. So I just go through this list of all of the markets on the weeklies, right? And just looking through just to see which ones are strong enough. The ADA is nearly there, to be honest. But yeah, obviously not adding things to the flat line into the list. If something peaks up and shows its strength, shows its hand in the markets, then it basically warrants its position there. But if not, then I have to wait. What's up, Afin? Do we have a few days trial or discount on your Discord? No, there's nothing like that. If you want to join, it's the same price as everyone else, $100 a month. Been seeing some huge growth and development recently of traders in there. That anyone that joins says that it's well worth the investment and more. So unfortunately, you have to take your punt there and join the community. All right, guys, listen, that's it for me today. Been an hour on stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be seeing you guys all next week, likely same time. We'll be posting on YouTube, Twitter, and in the Discord as well to let you all know. Until then, happy trading. Stay stringent. Hope you milk as much value out of the markets as possible, both on the spot side and the trading side. And I'll catch you.